This technique was never meant to be popular. It was buried, diluted, and quietly dismissed because of one uncomfortable truth. Once you understand how to directly influence your nervous system, you become far harder to control. What I'm about to show you is not just breathing. It is a precise, almost forbidden bridge between ancient Zazen and modern neuroscience, a method capable of directly stimulating your vagus nerve in ways most people will never experience. And yes, that should make you pause. Because if it were harmless, it wouldn't feel this hidden. Right now, your body is likely trapped in a loop you didn't consciously choose. Constant alerts, shallow breaths, racing thoughts. You call it normal life, but biologically, it is a low-grade survival state. Your nervous system is acting like you are under threat even when you are sitting still. And here is the dangerous part. The longer you stay in this state, the more your brain rewires itself to believe this tension is your baseline. You don't notice it anymore. You adapt to it. But adaptation is not healing. It is silent deterioration. I've worked with individuals who thought they were fine until they realized they hadn't taken a truly deep breath in years. Think about that. Years. Your breath, the most fundamental rhythm of your existence, reduced to a mechanical reflex. No depth, no control, no awareness. And yet, every major system in your body depends on it. Your heart rhythm, your emotional regulation, even your ability to think clearly, are all tied to how you breathe. So, when your breath becomes shallow and chaotic, everything else follows. This is where Zazen breath technique becomes something else entirely. Not relaxation, not meditation as you were casually told. This is intervention. A direct signal sent into your nervous system that says, stand down. But here is the catch. Most people practice it incorrectly. They sit. They breathe vaguely. They wait for calm. Nothing happens. They assume it doesn't work. That assumption is the real failure point. Because when done correctly, this technique doesn't just calm you. It shifts your internal state with almost surgical precision. It begins to unlock pathways in your nervous system that have been dormant, suppressed, or simply ignored. And once those pathways activate, you don't just feel relaxed. You feel different, sharper, quieter, in control in a way that is difficult to describe until you experience it yourself. So, the real question is not whether this works. The real question is, are you ready to confront how disconnected you've become from your own breath? You think you're managing stress. You're not. You're surviving it. There's a difference, and your body knows it, even if your mind keeps pretending everything is under control. Right now, beneath your awareness, your system is dominated by a constant low-level activation of the sympathetic response. Fight or flight. Not because you are in danger, but because your biology has been conditioned to expect it. And once that loop is established, it doesn't just switch off. It becomes your default setting. Your breathing is the first casualty. Short, shallow, irregular, almost invisible. You don't question it because it feels normal. But this pattern is quietly reinforcing the very stress you're trying to escape. Every shallow inhale tells your brain something is wrong. Every incomplete exhale prevents your body from resetting. It's a feedback loop, and you are caught inside it. The more stressed you feel, the worse you breathe. The worse you breathe, the more your system amplifies its stress signals. It is not psychological. It is mechanical. It is happening whether you notice it or not. Now, here is where it becomes dangerous. Chronic dysregulation of the vagus nerve doesn't just affect how you feel. It alters how your entire system functions. Your heart loses rhythm variability. Your digestion becomes inefficient. Your brain starts favoring fast, reactive thinking instead of deep, controlled cognition. You become more impulsive, less patient, more easily overwhelmed. And over time, this doesn't just feel like stress anymore. It becomes your personality. That is how deeply this pattern embeds itself. I've seen people chase solutions for years. Supplements, productivity systems, distractions disguised as self-care. But none of that addresses the core issue. Your nervous system has forgotten how to return to baseline. It has lost flexibility. It no longer knows how to shift gears. And without that ability, every small challenge feels amplified. Every emotional response becomes exaggerated, and every moment of stillness feels uncomfortable instead of restorative. Ask yourself something honestly. When was the last time you sat in complete silence and felt truly at ease? Not distracted, not numbed, actually calm. If that question makes you uneasy, that is your answer. Your system is not at rest. It is waiting, always waiting. This is why most people fail when they attempt meditation. They sit down, close their eyes, and immediately confront the chaos they've been suppressing. They call it not working, but what they are really experiencing is exposure. Exposure to a system that has been running unchecked for too long. And unless you learn how to directly influence that system, not with vague relaxation, but with precise intervention, nothing changes. Now, we move into what most people never truly understand. The mechanism behind why this works, and why it feels almost unnatural the first time you experience it correctly. This is not just breathing slower. This is targeted neurological control. At the center of it is the vagus nerve, a vast communication highway running from your brainstem through your heart, lungs, and digestive system. Think of it as a master switch, one that determines whether your body stays in survival mode or shifts into restoration. Most people never learn how to access it consciously. Zazen breathing changes that. When you alter your breath in a precise way, you are not just moving air. You are sending electrical and chemical signals into this nerve. Slow, controlled exhales begin to stimulate vagal tone, essentially telling your system that the threat is gone. But here is where it gets deeper. The moment your vagus nerve activates, your entire internal environment starts to reorganize. Heart rate slows. Blood pressure stabilizes. Muscles release tension without you forcing them. It feels automatic because it is. You are not calming yourself mentally. You are triggering a biological cascade. At the same time, something happens in your brain that most people completely overlook. Your brainwave patterns begin to shift. Instead of high-frequency beta waves associated with stress and constant thinking, your brain starts moving toward theta waves. This is a state where awareness sharpens while noise decreases. You are not asleep, but you are no longer trapped in overthinking. It is a controlled descent into stillness, and it is incredibly powerful when stabilized. There is also a chemical layer to this process. Slow nasal breathing, especially when extended on the exhale, increases the production of nitric oxide. This molecule improves oxygen efficiency in your blood, meaning your body actually uses oxygen better, not just takes in more of it. Imagine upgrading the engine instead of just pressing harder on the gas pedal. That is what is happening internally. So, you have three systems aligning at once. Neural signaling through the vagus nerve, electrical activity in the brain shifting into a more coherent state, and biochemical changes improving oxygen delivery and circulation. This is why the effect feels so immediate when done correctly. You are not waiting for results. You are initiating them. But here is the critical detail most people miss. Precision matters. Slight changes in posture, timing, or awareness can completely alter the outcome. This is not casual breathing. This is a protocol. And once you understand how to execute it properly, you stop guessing. You start controlling. Now, we arrive at the part most people rush through. And that is exactly why they fail. This is not just instruction. This is a protocol, a sequence that must be executed with precision because small deviations will weaken the signal you are trying to send into your nervous system. If you do this casually, you will get casual results. If you do this correctly, you will feel the shift almost immediately. First, your posture. You sit upright, but not rigid. This is critical. Imagine your spine gently extending upward, as if suspended from above, while your shoulders remain completely relaxed. Your chin is slightly tucked, lengthening the back of your neck. This position is not aesthetic. It subtly aligns the pathways around the vagus nerve, reducing physical compression and allowing clearer signaling. Your hands rest naturally, and your body becomes still. Not forced stillness, but intentional stillness. Your gaze is lowered at a soft angle, about 45 degrees, not fully closed. This is a defining element of zazen that most people ignore. When your eyes are completely shut, the mind tends to drift or generate imagery. With a half-open gaze, you anchor awareness in reality while calming the visual system. This balance is what stabilizes your attention. Now, the breath. You inhale slowly through your nose for approximately 4 seconds, not deep in the chest, but expanding low into the abdomen. The movement should be quiet, almost unnoticeable from the outside. Then, a brief micro-pause. 1 second, no more. This is not holding your breath. It is allowing the signal to settle. Then comes the most important phase. The exhale. You release the breath slowly through your nose for 6 to 8 seconds. Longer than the inhale. Controlled, smooth, without collapse. This extended exhale is what directly stimulates the vagal response. This is where the shift begins. If your exhale is rushed or uneven, you break the chain. There is one more detail that separates surface-level practice from true activation. Your tongue rests gently against the roof of your mouth, just behind the front teeth. Subtle, but powerful. This position helps regulate airflow and may enhance neural feedback loops connected to breathing patterns. Most people skip this. That is their mistake. You repeat this cycle, but here is the key. You do not chase relaxation. You observe. You allow. The moment you try to force calm, you reintroduce tension. Instead, you maintain awareness on the breath, on the timing, on the stillness of your body. Your role is not to create the effect. Your role is to execute the protocol and let the system respond. After a few cycles, you will notice something unusual. Your thoughts begin to slow, not because you suppress them, but because they lost momentum. Your body feels heavier, yet more stable. Your breathing becomes quieter without effort. This is the activation point. Miss the details, and it feels like nothing. Execute it precisely, and it becomes something else entirely. Now, you need to understand something most people are never told. This is not a technique that might work someday. When executed correctly, the changes begin immediately, and they follow a very specific timeline. If you don't notice these shifts, it is not because the method failed. It is because the protocol was not applied with precision. Within the first 60 seconds, something subtle but undeniable begins. Your exhale lengthens, and with it, your heart rate starts to decelerate. Not dramatically, but measurably. This is your vagus nerve receiving the signal and responding. You may feel a slight heaviness in your chest or a soft drop in tension across your shoulders. This is the first sign that your system is beginning to exit survival mode. At around the 3 to 5 minute mark, the shift becomes more pronounced. Your breathing naturally slows without effort. You are no longer controlling it as much as you are following it. This is where many people make a mistake. They think they can stop the protocol, but this is only the threshold. Inside your brain, activity begins transitioning away from constant analytical processing toward a more coherent, stable rhythm. Your awareness sharpens, but your internal noise decreases. You are present, but not overwhelmed. Calm, but not dull. By the time you reach 7 to 10 minutes, your body enters a state that most people rarely access consciously. Muscle tension releases in layers, not all at once, but progressively. Your jaw softens. Your forehead smooths. Your breathing becomes almost silent. This is where your system begins to recalibrate itself. Not temporarily, but structurally. Repeated exposure to this state strengthens your ability to return to it faster. You are training your nervous system, not just relaxing it. Now, extend this across days. Within 3 to 7 days of consistent practice, something deeper begins to change. Your baseline shifts. Situations that would normally trigger stress start to feel manageable. Your reactions slow down. You gain a fraction of a second between stimulus and response, and that fraction changes everything. That is control. At 30 days, the transformation becomes difficult to ignore. Your heart rate variability improves. Your emotional stability increases, and your ability to enter calm states becomes almost immediate. You are no longer dependent on external conditions to feel balanced. You carry that state with you. This is the part most people underestimate. They think the goal is relaxation. It is not. The goal is adaptability, the ability to shift your internal state at will. And once that ability is developed, you are no longer reacting to life. You are regulating it. Now, you are standing at a line most people will never cross. Not because the method is complex, not because it is inaccessible, but because it demands something rare. Direct confrontation with your own lack of control. You've seen the mechanism. You've been given the protocol. You understand the timeline. So the question is no longer, does this work? The question is far more uncomfortable. Will you actually do it, or will you fall back into the same patterns that have kept you stuck? Because let me be clear with you. Most people who encounter this will feel a brief surge of curiosity, maybe even excitement, and then they will do nothing. They will tell themselves they are too busy, too tired, or that they will start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes never. And their nervous system remains exactly where it is. Reactive, unstable, controlled by external pressure instead of internal command. This is not lack of knowledge. This is avoidance. You have to understand what is at stake. Every day, you remain in a dysregulated state, your system reinforces it. Neural pathways strengthen, patterns deepen. What feels normal becomes harder to break. And the longer you wait, the more effort it takes to reverse. This is not motivational language. This is biological reality. Your brain and body adapt to whatever you repeat. So here is the challenge, and it is not negotiable if you expect results. Sit down today, not later, not when it feels convenient. Today, assume the posture of Zazen. Align your body and begin the breathing protocol exactly as described. No shortcuts, no improvisation. 4 seconds inhale, brief pause. 6 to 8 seconds exhale. Maintain your awareness. Stay with it for at least 10 minutes. You will feel resistance. Your mind will wander. Your body may become restless. Good. That is not failure. That is exposure. You are finally seeing the instability that has been running in the background this entire time. Most people interpret that discomfort as a signal to stop. That is why they never progress. You are going to do the opposite. You are going to stay. Because on the other side of that resistance, something shifts. Not dramatically at first, but enough for you to notice. A gap in your thoughts. A drop in tension. A moment of clarity that feels unfamiliar. That moment is your proof. Not theory, not belief. Direct experience. And once you experience it, even briefly, you can no longer pretend you are powerless over your own state. You've touched the mechanism. You've activated the system. From that point forward, every time you choose not to use it, you will know exactly what you are giving up. So, decide. Stay where you are. Comfortable, but controlled. Or step into something most people never access. True internal regulation. The method is in your hands now.